Hello, and welcome back to Strangetown. A lot of things have happened since last we were here, and whole sim week has passed. So it's now week 4, Monday for most households. And this is actually pretty fun for me because this is the exact point in time that I was at when I started my Pleasant View Let's Play series. And it's really fun to compare how far I've come in the two neighborhoods. Of course, I have a few years more experience now with playing an integrated neighborhood with active careers and such. So, of course, I've come a lot further with this neighborhood. But I mean, similar things that was there in Pleasant View is here now as well, like the schools, for one thing that I have shared in speed build videos and other businesses as well. I think, the hospital was already set up in Pleasant View and that is here as well. A church that I have now also built that we're going to take a look at later. But of course, some additional things that weren't in Pleasant View. So I also think that I probably have more Sims playable here now than what I had in Pleasant View at the start. So yeah, that's also something different. And I think a lot of that comes from playing with Life Fiesta Tech as well. Since I don't have a university hood in Pleasant View, it's not as many Sims that have been made playable and integrated into the neighborhood, of course. And as you can see on the map, a lot of things have happened in layout as well since we were here last time. I think we can actually go back and take a look at where it all started. This is the map that was in the first video that I shared. And as you can see, a lot of things are changed. At that point in time, I basically had just built up the military part of the neighborhood. The other things were left as is. And if we take a look at what was in the second video, some things have been updated with, this community lot had been renovated. This was pretty much the same, but an additional house down here. And then the more high-tech part of the neighborhood had started to be built up with the science facility, the hospital, and some of the houses here as well, with this apartment complex as well. But taking a look in game now, you can see that quite a few things are added. And I've also started to plan out quite a few things as well. That's not built yet, but where I've started to envision where they're actually going to be. I've also moved this radio tower to the sides to give more space to what's in this corner of the map. And I've also scooted down this collection of rocks to be in a more manageable place so that they're not intruding here on where I want the buildings to be. And so much has actually happened since last time that I'm not sure exactly where to start. So I think I'm going to take a page out of what I did last time, but I'm going to do my very best not to go into as much detail because that video became, I think, 2.5 hours long. So let's try to keep this a little shorter this time if I can. But one thing that I did last time was that I went through the community lots first, and I think that is a good strategy. So I'm actually going to start with the community lots that are not owned by anyone, that I can just pop into. And then I'm going to move on to the community lots that are new, that are owned. And then, let's move on to the families. So if we start with one of the community lots that I have finally taken the time to renovate, it's the 94 Road to Nowhere. So yeah, let's drop into the lot. So here we are. I've just gone into the options tab here so you don't see the invisible, the see-through grid all over the place. This makes it look a little bit nicer. And first things first, if you're familiar with this lot, it's the one with a huge pool. I think it was like all the way here and down here, something like that. And that was a bit too much, I felt like. So I have shrunk it down quite a bit. And I've also fenced in this area a lot to give some privacy. I think that if people are moving around in their swimwear, they don't want any passers-by or cars or anything to just gawk at them. So that felt like something I wanted to do. And I also added in a parking lot here with these driveways that will spawn cars. And then also this driveway that's actually usable for my Sims. So they're gonna pull up here and park in this. It's because of a mod I have called Park in the Car Park, I think. And that adds a lot of immersion, so they don't just sit here with the cars on the side of the road. So that's very nice. And the layout is also pretty similar to what it was with the slim houses going down here. And I have made this into changing rooms. So I have one here for male Sims with bathrooms here, toilets and showers. They also have an extra door going out here. Oh, apparently I have missed painting this wall. Let's fix that quickly. But yeah, they have that door going out, and the women is just a mirrored version of the same thing there. And then on this side here, I have made a cafe. So it's a coffee bar or an espresso bar here. And then also this food board that they can use to order food without the need to have an employee. So they just stand here, order food, and it appears on one of these counters. I think actually it appears on one of these counters, so I think I'm gonna have to put in some more decorative stuff here to block that from happening. And then they're gonna sit down on one of these seats here to eat. And then in this side, I have a little just common area with a stereo, because when you have Sims out on dates, they always want to dance somewhere. So I added that in to have music. And then there's some saunas here, and also a spa area where they can get massages as well. So there's 2 rooms for that here. So I sort of made this into a, spa, I guess you could say. Something like that, because I already had a gym in the other community lots, and it felt like it's too much of the same if I added in a gym as well here. So yeah, I took that turn instead. And this is actually a really, really great spot for my Sims to go out on dates, both adults and teenagers. Actually, I've had quite a lot of dates here already. And one of the nicest things about this as well is that when you change to night, you can see these really, really nice lights lighting up the place here that I really enjoy, and it makes great pictures as well of my Sims when they are visiting here. So yeah, it was one of those lots that I was sort of pulling my teeth to actually sit down to renovate, but now that I have done so, I'm very, very happy with the end result. So yeah, I made quite a lot of use of this already and really, really enjoy it. Next up is another community lot that was actually here in the very first video even, but that I haven't taken the time to show you for some reason. I'm kind of kicking myself for not doing that since it's been here from the start. So I thought I'd just sort of get that one over with as well. And it's this park that I named Marigold Park that's sitting in between all of these houses. And I decided to sort of add that into, I don't know, add some sort of community area in the middle of these houses. So I just felt like that made it seem more nice than if I would have put yet another house here. And also it's on the main road, so I felt like a community lot made more sense. That's sort of what it became. And I basically used this to have it as a hangout spot for teenagers. Sort of getting to know each other and finding people who they are maybe attracted to after they have only just grown up into a teenager. I used this visitor controller to ban all other ages to make that happen. But I've also started to use it a little bit to sort of go with my adult Sims as well, who are having trouble finding partners, to see if they can find a townie or something that they are attracted to. So bunch of different uses, but a lot for socializing, basically. So yeah, let's pop into the park. And here we are, just a very simple park with some parking spaces here, and there's a basketball court that I can use. I haven't really found the use for it yet, but maybe if I put some sort of basketball team together or something, I can use this lot for it. There's a hangout area with a grill that they are using quite a bit, so the Sims normally just gather around here. And then, yeah, it's just a bunch of greenery here, a chess table that they can use if they want. And I used to have fountains here as well, but the Sims became so obsessed with pouring soap into the fountains because there's nothing else for them to really do here. So it became too obnoxious and I had to remove them. But yeah, besides that, it's just a nice area to hang out, as I mentioned. So not very much else to it. But as I said, it's nice to have something like a community area besides these family buildings as well, to frame things in, I guess. All right, and moving on from the park. Things are lagging a little bit here now. Then we have this community lot as well. That's not owned by anyone right now. I'm thinking about maybe making it owned later, just to be able to manipulate how many visitors it has, because I've been playing it now and it's not very many Sims coming visiting this, unfortunately. So I think maybe that is something for the future, but for now it's not owned by anyone. And that is the factory. I've actually written a description for it as well. Previously known for producing bolts, nuts and screws, the factory has since been repurposed into a nightclub. Now they're working with another kind of metal. So yeah, this is a nightclub that I decided to add in, and I modeled it after sort of the factory-like building in this community lot, the 88 Road to Nowhere, that I repurposed into a gym in this case. But I used the same style for this nightclub building. And mainly because I had a lot of young adults aging up into adults and moving into town. I decided that I wanted to have some place for them to hang out and party, and it's a lot of popularity Sims as well. So yeah, it was really necessary. And yeah, let's move into the lot and check it out. So this is the lot with a huge parking space here on the side and a lot of greenery decorating it. And I also decided to put in some nooks and niches around the building to give it more of a structure to it. Even if there's no windows on this side, for example, it made it seem a little bit more decorated. And then these really, really huge, like, in my mind, factory-like windows, but maybe they're technically a little bit too fancy for it. But yeah, and then of course I have these slanted roofs with windows in them as well. And this is the nightclub as it looks. So on this upstairs area, there's the bar with a lot of green moody lighting here. And then there's like a balcony, you could say, surrounding it with some seating here as well. And a graffiti wall on this side. And then we have the DJ booth down here. And I've actually taken to bring DJ Verse here to perform at times. She's not really keeping to it a lot when I'm playing with her or when I make her selectable, unfortunately. I think that maybe she's just doing it until she has filled up her fun or something like that, and then the normal DJ takes over. So it's not really running that perfectly, and that's another reason why I would like to make this lot owned instead. Then I could employ her as the DJ, and that would make her actually stick to playing for longer, I guess. And then we have the entrance here, and I made this just a decorated area for leaving your coat, bags, things that you don't want to bring to the dance floor. And of course, some bathrooms as well. And I also have a photo booth here, the obligatory woohoo spot, of course. And that's basically it. And the same thing here as with the other lot is that it looks a lot better at night. A lot of moody lighting coming in here. And I also actually placed one of these green lights at the bottom of this fountain, so that when the water comes as well, it's really, really moody and interesting looking. It really changed the appearance of this completely. And it's I put this one on a 90 degrees OMSP to tilt it backwards, basically. Maybe I can, yeah, here you see, it's just laying down on the ground. And then also going into the factory itself, you can see that it's a lot of green lighting here. And I thought that that was a nice color for Strangetown as well. And that's the theme sort of around all of this. A little bit of blue as well. And of course, the dance floor is not always going to be red like it is here. When you go here with the Sims, they're actually going to switch to a bunch of different colors and look a lot nicer. Yeah, that was the nightclub. And let's move back to the neighborhood. So those were actually the only unowned community lots that I haven't shown you yet. So there's quite a lot more of them, but they're all owned. So yeah, let's move on. Maybe I can mention this. This is lot 42, and my idea for this lot is to make this into a restaurant. I have Renee Walton, who is at this point very high up in the culinary career, that I've been thinking of making a restaurant for. So this is sort of the lot where I have mapped that one out, but it's not built or anything yet. So that's something that I have sort of on the back burner. And of course, up here we have the Church of Saint PT 1334. I decided to make it into an alien thing there, but yeah. So that's also something that we're going to have to visit with the Sim who owns that lot. And this is the Muenda Memorial Burial Site. And that's going to be the graveyard. So technically we could visit this, but there's nothing built here yet. There's only one tombstone here so far. And yeah, that's something that I also have on the back burner. And then going this way, we have this. It's the Artworth Gallery, and that's also an owned one. It's the first community lot of Francis J. Worthington. So he's going to be sort of a businessman who, pretty similarly to Malcolm Landgrab in My Pleasant View, probably is going to have a bunch of different businesses maybe down the line, or maybe associated ones. So this is where he started, and I have a description here for this as well. Art at its most valuable and exclusive. Francis J. Worthington displays aspiring artists on the cusp of fame, ensuring valuable pieces that will only rise in value with time. There's no other way to put it. Totally worth it. So yeah, we're gonna check that one out later as well. I have put down this huge community lot, lot 43, and I don't know what to put down here yet. It's really big, and I'm not sure what would be suitable here, so I'm still thinking about that. It might be that I make some sort of mall or something like that. Something that takes a lot of space anyway, that would make sense here. And basically I made this size because it fitted in so perfectly here, and I couldn't really put anything else here and use up the space. So yeah, that's sort of what I decided to do. And yeah, of course, we have the science facility and the hospital that you've already seen. And this is sort of allocated space for more community lots, I think. I'm just going to make this sort of a strip of community lots down the line. And I made these into residential lots at the moment, but it might be that I change those to community lots as well, depending on how things turn out later. Then, of course, we have the schools that we have already seen in the speed build videos, if you've seen those. So I'm going to have to visit those with the families that own them as well. And then I also have these. So this is Oracle's Whisper, and it's owned by Erin Lawson. And that's something that I mentioned in the previous video, I think, that I had been thinking about creating a medium business for Crystal and Erin to run together. And this is actually what that is. So we're going to visit that one as well. Haven't taken the time to write a description for it yet. And then we have the Body Stripper, and that is owned by Rip Vander Morgan. So I've actually renamed Rip to his mother's last name instead of his father's, because of course he really detests his father and he wants nothing to do with him or with his older brother. So he changed his last name, and that's actually nice as well, because that means I can continue on with the Vander Morgan families as well in this neighborhood. And of course, Body's Ripper, it's a bookstore, and Rip is also a writer himself. So yeah, it just made sense. I haven't written a description for that one either, but it's a bookstore. And besides that, those are the community lots, right, except for the sunflower daycare as well in this corner here. So I think that let's drop into the first household that has an ownable community lots, and let's move down the line. So let's start with the Hourvitz family. And if you remember from last time, we visited this household briefly, and I have gone ahead and extended the house a little bit to the side here. This whole area is new. And that is because Edward and his wife Tina have actually moved in with their twins. We have little Paige and Rachel living here with them as well. So they needed to have one bedroom each, of course, and some more bathrooms were needed as well. And there's this empty spare room for now. It's probably going to be used pretty soon. And then, of course, the parents are still living here as well. So that was how I resolved that sort of living situation. And besides that, the house looks the same as when we were here before. And the businesses that they own are actually 2 businesses. So it has potential to become a little bit overwhelming playing this household, but I'm trying to pace myself with one of the businesses, that is the church that is owned by Gerard. So he has actually resigned from his work as an architect that he had before, and he has now taken up a job as a high shepherd in the Jacoban line of work, and that is a custom work that I have added into my game, and that is what he's doing. And then, of course, I also have Tina, who is currently feeding one of the babies here, but she is an elementary school teacher, so she owns the elementary school. And I actually just got a pop-up requesting her to go to work now, so I'm gonna have to start doing that, and then we can go to the church after that, I think. But maybe we should just take a look at their story. Quite a lot of things we've already gone through here, but Edward was actually together with Barbara when he was a teenager. And Tina, on her part, was together with Rip. And this is just a family picture when they were all living together, when they were much younger. So it's fun to look back at that. At this point, actually, even the little toddler here in the picture, Gracie, has become a young adult at this point. So it's really fun to see where it all began. This is when she learned to walk. And this is when Samuel was flirting with Jill Smith, actually, when they were teenagers as well. And that was a budding romance that started there. That's actually still something going on up until this day, even though quite a lot of drama has happened in that department. And then little Gracie had grown into a teenager and was starting to flirt with the neighbor's son, John Shaw, that she eventually also had her first kiss with, and they became boyfriend and girlfriend pretty quickly, actually. So they have been together for a very long time, and they're still together now at university as well. And a lot of things happened, as I mentioned, with Tina in the previous week that I went through, and she ended up leaving Rip for Edward instead, and they actually ended up becoming a couple instead. And yeah, at that point, we still had Gerard and Trista being cute and loving together, and they were both working on their different line of businesses. And then Tina had aged into an adult, and this is back in the other apartment that I showed you last time. And she invited Edward over and popped the question. So it was actually Tina proposing to him while he was still a young adult. And then something that has become quite a big part of this neighborhood now happened. I think that last time I went through this, I had only just started to breed some of my dogs. But that has really exploded now. And this is one of their dogs meeting another one at the park that we were just visiting. So it's not just human relations that I am fostering there, it's also pet relations actually sometimes. And after that point, she gave birth to some puppies. And yeah, I'm going to show you the family tree later because it is quite intense at this point. And after all the kids had left the nest, of course, both Trista and Gerard spent a lot of time with friends. Here they have some of the neighbors over for a dinner party. This is a picture from the school that we're going to visit soon, that Tina is hosting a class for the children. And watching them play out on the playground as well. And then after this point, Edward actually aged into an adult. And this is him at the gym. He's sort of a health freak, so he loves going there to exercise. And he took up employment as a police officer. So that's what he's working as right now. I don't have an active police career yet, but that's something that I am looking into, possibly adding in for this week. And something that has been going on with Gerard for a very long time is that he has had his eyes set on Margaret Howe. Margaret has not been interested in him, really. She's been sort of stringing him along and sort of flirting with him, but nothing more serious than that. And throughout her entire relationship with Buzz Grunt, she didn't give him the time of day. But things have changed since then, and he has actually become quite an important person for her now, and they've grown very, very close. So much so that he's actually fallen in love with her, and he started to reject his wife's advances at this point. So we're going to have to see how things end up with that. He's got a very stable and rich life here with his family, so I think that he is desperately trying to not ruin things, but yeah, gonna see later things happen with that as well. So this is what he looks like when he's in his priest outfit that we're gonna see soon. And this is the little puppy that Tina and Edward adopted, and this is the dog as it grew up. And then they actually got married at the apartment lot that they were living at the time. This was only just before I had built the church, actually. So unfortunately, they didn't have the chance to have a church wedding. They were like the last family before I built it, so it was a bit unlucky, but they had a nice ceremony anyways, with a lot of guests coming over, and it was a very nice time. This is a picture of the mother-in-law's meeting with the children and greeting each other as well, of course. Well, not the mother-in-laws, of course. Trista is the mother-in-law, but then of course we also have Renee, who is Tina's sister. And then Tina became pregnant with the twins, gave birth to them, and this is after they had just moved in here with Edward's parents. I was considering maybe making them, move into their own house, but it felt like such a waste to just have this huge house for only the elders, nothing else really going on, so that's what I decided to do. And then, of course, we have the pets. So we have Mickey, who is an elder at this point. We have Nancy, and then we also have Poppy, who is Edward and Tina's dog, whereas the others are Trista and Gerard's. And as I mentioned, they have quite an extensive family tree at this point. So taking a look here at Mickey, he had puppies here with Penny, who is the pet of the Macaulay family. So Gerard and Trista kept Nancy, and then Dink was kept by the Macaulay family. And then Nancy, for her part, had puppies then, as you saw in the picture, with Otis, who is an adopted pet in town. And they had puppies as well. So they had Teddy, Buddy, and Poppy. And then Teddy had puppies again with Tiffany, who was a stray that one of the families in town adopted. And Tiffany had puppies, Nougat, Toffee, and Fudge. And so far, Nougat has had puppies as well, with another stray that randomly generated in my town called Pepper. And they have 4 puppies together, turmeric, cumin, cinnamon, and nutmeg. So that's sort of what's going on here. And also taking a look on the other side of things, we have Dink then, who had 2 puppies, and that was with Dolly, the Shaw family pet. And they had Mary and Pippin together. And then Pippin also had puppies with a Cookie, who was also a randomly generated stray that appeared in town that you're going to see later. And they had Puzzle, Snoopy, and Nosy together. And after that point, Puzzle has also had puppies with Arthob, who was also a randomly generated stray that appeared in my hood. So quite a lot of that going on. And they have Hornet, Eagle, and Raptor together. So that's for the dogs. And then I also have something similar going on with the cats. So what I've actually gone ahead and done is that in my spreadsheet for Strangetown, I added in this tab for my pets. So I have a list here of owners and the dogs, and then on this side we have the cats instead. What breeds they are, sort of, kind of. That's also, of course, getting a bit convoluted after they are breeding with each other. I don't really pay attention to breeds that much, so it's actually fun to mix them in-game, I feel like. And I also sort of write in here whether they are a parent or not. And if they've had puppies or kittens, I write a yes, so that I won't breed them again. And that way I can sort of keep track of which dogs I have yet to breed, if I do want to breed them. And the same thing with the cats, of course. And then I take some notes here of possible coupling moving forward. For both cats and dogs. And that is actually making the neighborhood pretty lively with the pets here, what pets are adoptable for the families. And it's also fun to see the way that they are starting to look and turn out through the different combinations of different dogs. So that's really, really fun to work with, on the side of course, doing something similar at a much slower rate with The Sims as well. So you're going to see a lot more of that as we move through the different families, of course. But for now, let's go with Tina to the elementary school and check out how that looks when we actually have some kids visiting the lot. So here we are at the school, and it looks pretty much the exact same as it did after I had built it. I haven't really made any changes to it. I don't think. I have only fiddled around a little bit with the positioning of the desks here, because I've had some issues with the opportunity pack and sort of the radius of where the Sims can sit and listen. Otherwise, they're just sort of standing here gathering. So I've had to fiddle around with that in both classrooms, actually. And I don't think I have perfected it yet either. So yeah, there's still some work to be done about that. But besides that, nothing should be changed, I don't think, since last time. And yeah, I have this sim blender here that I use very extensively for this lot, both to summon in sims and also to add in relationships between sims that's missing it. So this is a pretty new version of the sim blender that I'm using. And the cool thing about this one is that when you go to the teleport menu and you click summon, you can actually summon by age. And then if I go to child and then playable, I have all the playable children here all in one, and that makes it really easy for me to just pick out all of them without having to search extensively for them in their families that you can find in the sort of the normal menus like this. So that really helps a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and summon everyone in, and then we're gonna take it from there. There we go, all of them are summoned in, and since I have the bool prop testing sheets enabled true sheet on, I can just shift click and make them, selectable and unselectable like this. And that way I have made all of them selectable now, so I have them here in my menu. And then I also summoned in Quinton Macaulay, since he is the science teacher for the elementary school, and he's gonna take half of the class, and then Tina is going to take the other half. And what I'm doing here with the sim blender as well, then for sims that are only just starting school here, as Lux Curious, for example. Yeah, I think that all of these girls are actually the newcomers. So what I'm doing is checking out the relationships And as you can see, she's missing quite a few of them. So I'm going into the sim blender here, relationships. And I'm just going through all of the sims here available and just checking set have met. If this says this, then they haven't met yet. So if I click set have met and then go back here to Tina again, then you can see remove have met. And that means that they actually are in each other's relationship panels now. So if I just switch this around, you can see that Tina shows up. Something that I have noticed though can happen is that this just goes one way randomly sometimes. So sometimes it's necessary to do it from both sides. This time it worked. Lux actually ended up here. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind for this. And that's actually going to be a lot quicker and more efficient than what I used to do. What I used to do was just having them go up to each other and greet each other. But that's going to take so long. So this is a little bit annoying, but it's going to be a lot quicker and more efficient down the line. And then, of course, once I have done that, I am moving them upstairs and splitting them sort of in half. So half of them are going to be here with Quinton in the science room. And this is the Opportunity Pack science journal that he's going to use. And then Tina is going to use this one, the Epic. I think it's called the Storybook or something like that. Also from the Opportunity Pack. And then while they are doing that, of course, I'm also going to summon in Daisy, who's going to cook up some lunch for the kids. And I am using this mod that changes how many servings they are doing at once. So I'm kind of using that to make it even out with how many sims there are that needs to eat food, so that everyone has one plate each. And yeah, that's basically what I'm doing here. And after lunch, I just leave them to their own devices, sending them out into the playground sometimes, or maybe they are also playing around in this playroom as well. And then until the workday is over. So it's between 8 and 3 p.m. that I'm doing this. And of course, this is something that I'm doing in my Pleasant to You Let's Play series, if you want to see more of what that looks like. Yeah. That is as much as we need to go through here, I think. So let's move over to the church. So here we are at the church lot, and it has both the church building itself over here and a sort of administrative building that I use for hosting weddings right now. And this is what it looks like. So it's right next to the Spectre household and the Enigma's household, and then also the future graveyard is going to be on that side. And of course, I have this sort of ghostly figurine standing here guarding the entrance of the church. And yeah, of course, Gerard is arriving here in his car, and for some reason, don't know why, but he's never changing into his management outfit. So I always have to do that manually, to ask him to wear it for some reason. But that's what he's supposed to look like. And going into the church here, there's some towers here that's not really used for anything. And then a double height here with some really tall windows, some gigantic chandeliers here, a piano that they are using while the wedding is going on. And then some seating here that I am fiddling back and forth with, trying to figure out the layout. Still having issues with sims standing up as they're watching the wedding ceremony, unfortunately. But yeah, that's just how it is. And this is the wedding arch that I'm using here as well, in front of the figurine that I'm using for the watcher in my neighborhoods. So that's sort of what this is supposed to represent, myself as the watcher, I guess. And then I also have this opportunity pack with the mystic icon that Gerard can use for actually speaking to the sims who arrive here. And I've also started to, whenever Gerard is here, to just use this as a business lot, to pay attention to what sims are coming here. And then in my spreadsheet, then I have all the sims in my neighborhood. And here in the P column, I have what the religion is. So I'm starting to fill this out now, and some sims who are randomly showing up here on the lot, I have taken that as a sign that they are at least interested in the watcher, and if I think it fits, I turn them faithful. A lot of my sims are still agnostic, and of course all my child sims are going to remain agnostic until they are young adults or adults, when I have gotten to know them more and that they have actually grown into a sim who can make that decision for themselves. So I'm waiting for that. And some of the sims I've gone through besides this and just decided that, okay, but Blair Lawson, I know that he's an atheist, and same thing with AJ Loner, the two of them actually. But then I've also decided that, for example, Kristen Lost is faithful and so on. So I've been starting to work on this, but there's still a ways to go with that. And then, of course, I've hosted my first weddings here as well, which has been really exciting. And a lot of that is taking place here in the wedding venue as well. So I have a lot of them gather here to toast and have cake and dance and all kinds of things. I actually recently put in also this bar that unfortunately they couldn't use for some reason. So I think I might remove it again since it's unnecessary that it's here then. And then, of course, also a kitchen where a caterer can arrive to serve some food as well for the dinner guests. And yeah, I've had some really nice pictures taken here with the sims arriving. And it's really nice to have this as an option for those sims that I feel like they're faithful or they have a large family around them that would like to be in a ceremony like this. And yeah, it's really fun. Highly recommend. And with that, let's move on to the next family. And then right next to the Hourvitz house that we have here is the Riley house. And this actually looks exactly the same, I think, since we were here last time, just that I have gotten rid of the furniture that were in this room previously, the children's bedrooms, and I have turned this one into a sort of office for Jessica, who is writing her own novels. So I wanted it to be more of a dedicated workspace for her. And then we have a gym for Cooper, who is using it quite a lot, but he is also enjoying eating quite a lot. So he's always sort of in the middle here on this fitness journey. So he's sort of maintaining himself, but it's not really building his muscle, even though he wants to be fit, of course. So and then we have their son Ian still living at home. The other children have flown the nest. And this is, of course, the family that owns the high school currently, even though Cooper wants to retire. So let's see how long that lasts. But that is what's going on here. And as you can see, we have a lot of cats here. So this is one of the families that are part of breeding the cats. And taking a look at that as well, it's a little bit more scattered for the cats than it is for the dogs, but that is about to change. So we have in this family, we have their cat Cleo, and then she had kittens with Nemesis, who is Ophelia Nigmos and Laszlo Nigmos cat. And they had Alter and Ally together, and then Alter has had Yin and Yang with a stray cat that belongs to Erin Beaker and in the Lawson family called Mips. And then also Ally had kittens with Anteros. Actually, it is a little bit more connected than I remember. That's nice. But that is one of the cats from another family here, and they had Inky, Typo, and Print together, and that are the kittens that you see in this household, because I felt like it fitted really well with Jessica's occupation, in the journalism career, even though she's retired now, and also writing novels. So that's how that happened. And taking a look at their history here, and we've gone through quite a lot of these pictures already. This is from when Tiffany was a teenager. And this is from back when their first in-game born child was young. That is Evelyn. She's a young adult now, though, so it was quite a while ago. And then Ian as well, as he was born and aged up. Cooper loves music, of course, and he's had quite a lot of flings on the side of his marriage. Both of them are romance sims, so there's been quite a lot of that going on from both sides. And this is when their second oldest daughter, Cameron, was a teenager. She used to babysit for Genesis Lamb quite a lot and taking care of little Faith. And this is just a family picture. Cameron as she is working on her paintings, and then Cooper again meeting up with Trista. And yeah, some more family pictures here. And this is when their oldest daughter, Tiffany, very briefly moved in with her parents again. She has her own story going on. Quite a lot of things has happened in her life, and we're going to get to that part later because it's a pretty extensive story. So, but she briefly moved in here together with her little son, with her parents again. And then a lot of things happened with the cats. Actually, she only moved in when he was a child. She was just visiting in the previous picture. And then Evelyn aged into a teenager and visited the park, as I mentioned, and met Ceres Beaker for the first time. And they hit it off together. They're both gay and started to have a fling. And then this is from the high school, actually, some pictures from what it looks like when they're at work here. Cooper hard at work in his office. And then the teenagers, of course, in the dining hall as well. Some club's activity here. And yeah, music and painting and newspaper and things. And then actually Evelyn and Ceres had their first kiss together. I thought that that would not happen because they only had one attraction bolt with each other. So I was feeling a little bit sorry for them that things were not going that well and they didn't really have any other options. So I figured that even though they have such low chemistry, I might actually push them to at least have their first kiss together, and then things can move in any direction after that point. And something that I have started to use in this neighborhood a little bit is a cheat that is enabled when you have enabled the all menus cheat in your game files. That's something that I use mostly for storytelling purposes when I make machinima videos, actually. But it can be useful sometimes for gameplay. And this extra sheet that you get from that is called Social Debug. And what happens if you enable that is that you get this dialog box whenever you initiate a social interaction between two sims, and you get this box that says yes or no. And if you click yes, it's going to be a successful interaction. If you click no, it's going to be an unsuccessful one. So in order to get them to actually share their first kiss for storytelling purposes, I actually enabled that sheet and picked yes to have them accept the kiss. And yeah, they became a bit lovey-dovey after that, but yeah, we'll have to see. I don't think that they're gonna be a long-term relationship at all. Moving on, we have some more family pictures here, some more pictures from the high school again. And then Laszlo came over. He was actually a long-time friend of Jessica's. I think they might have had a fling at some point even. And he brought Nemesis over, of course, and then the kittens were born. So that has been going on. And then more pictures from the school and yeah, some adoption pictures as well. So this is Crystal Vu coming over to adopt one of the little kittens. And yeah, this is also when their daughter, Cameron, came over very recently to also bring her, well, her roommate and the roommate's cat. And that was also how that pregnancy became a thing, that the cats had more kittens. Cooper working out, Jessica writing in her writing room, and then the little kittens were born. And that's sort of where we are at the moment. So yeah, I'm gonna keep looking for families that want to adopt these kittens and continue working on that. And Ian is gonna actually move to university today. So after that point, Cooper and Jessica are gonna have this whole house to themselves. So that's gonna be... Yeah, I'm not sure what to do about this actually, because as it looks now, their daughters aren't really interested in living here, I don't think. I And it's a pretty big house for them to keep all to themselves. So yeah, I'm gonna keep thinking about it. I mean, maybe I turn this room into a cat room or something because they're gonna keep having a lot of cats, I think. So yeah, maybe something like that. But let's move over to the high school and visit that as well. And here is the high school. So this is what it looks like, sort of a combination of old and new here. And I've actually gone ahead and summoned in everyone so you can see what it actually looks like when it's in use. So Cooper, for his part, is sitting here in his office working, and I use Monique's computer and work at home to have him work on, right now it's a logic article. And that is sort of simulating him working. And of course, I have these little hobby rooms that I use for after school activities based on what the teenagers want to do with their time. And here, of course, we have the restaurant part. So this is where I'm going to summon in Tallinn Curious to serve up some food for the teenagers later. And then down here is some more club activity areas. Quite a lot of Sims want to use this actually, so I think I might have to add in more of these exercise machines. And then, yeah, of course, also library here, and going upstairs is a music room here and an art room for more club activities. And then we have the lessons going on. So we have Monica Bradford, who is now an adult and is working as a high school teacher, holding a lectures, and this is with the school book. And then in this room we have Pascal Curious, who is the science teacher, and he is also having his own lesson. I've actually had to extend the number of desks in these rooms twice now. At first I just had 4 in this room and 5 in here, but I've had to add in this desk down here and then an additional one here because I just have so many Sims at this point. And I'm starting to get close to enough Sims that I won't be able to fit all into the classrooms at all. So I think I'm going to have to try to figure out a third class going on at the same time here. Maybe I can extend this way or something, or yeah, I haven't decided yet. So that's something that I'm working on. And that's going to have to be necessary at some point. So yeah, and also in order to get Pascal into his work outfit, because I feel like the science teacher should have a white lab coat, I also use this Tom's clothing tester to pick out the career and then also the appropriate career level. So he's in science, and I've already picked level 4, so that's why it's not available right now. But yeah, it was level 4, so that's how you do that. And it's important to, if you use this, to pick the correct level, because otherwise it will sort of mess up the job here. I think that since I clicked on it now, you can see it's messed up. It's a test subject level 1 with no work days at all. So if you get this issue, I think it's as soon as you click on this, if you don't pick the appropriate job and level, you're going to get this issue. So in order to resolve that, just use the Sim Blender or shift click on the newspaper, go to careers, set level, and pick the one that it's supposed to be, and it's going to be resolved. So it's no big issue, it's just a little bit annoying. Yeah, besides that, I don't think there was anything else to show off here, really. So yeah, we're going to move on to the next community lot. So next up we have the Lawson family, and when I showed you this last time, they were called the Beaker household, but as you can see, little Johnson Lawson has been crawling back to his old family, and things are back to where they were from the start. So quite a lot of things have happened there, and let's check out the family album here. Just an old picture of Erin as she lived in the collective when he popped the question, and their wedding. Some nice pictures here. This is when she fell pregnant for the first time and had the first of their sons, Fionn. And they moved into this house together. And of course, everything with Tiffany went down as Johnson tried to play act as the perfect father. We had Crystal and Erin being friendly, and then a new pregnancy and a new child. Everything with Tiffany went down. Johnson was kicked out, and this is from when Erin was a single parent. And then Johnson crawling back into her bed again, although he wasn't invited back into the family at this point. Erin fell pregnant one more time and had another son that she raised on her own as a single parent. And then Johnson popped the question for a second time, and Erin said yes. So he actually got back into the family here. And yeah, I think that they had a private ceremony because I don't have a picture of it here actually. But yeah. Oh, here it is actually. So they were engaged for quite a while. And this is just randomly Tiffany walked by the lot after Johnson came back from work and she was pregnant. Not with him again though, so we're going to take that later. But they had a reunion and he was happy for her. So that's sort of settled now. He has decided to stick with his family because he has realized what the consequences are. He's gotten a second chance and he really doesn't want to ruin things this time. He was living together with Abhijit for a while, actually, together, and also with Daisy and her kids at that point. So he wasn't very happy over there, and he's very happy to be back with his family at this point. They had another wedding ceremony at this house this time, and yeah, everything one more time. And I think actually the same wedding clothes that they had the first time, just reusing them. And Fionn aged into a teenager. He's interested in some arts, but I think that's not his. Yeah, his one true hobby is film and literature actually, but he's also interested in art. And then we have, I think this is Nuada. No, this is Myrn, actually. And then this is when they had just adopted the dog that grew up into an adult dog here. And then they adopted the cat, Mips, which was a stray. And yeah, Johnson has been a good father figure this time. And this is Nuada, actually, following in his father's footsteps and enjoying sports. And this is actually a picture from the community lot that we're going to visit soon. This is the startup of Erin and Crystal's business. So this is her consulting one of her clients in her room with the crystal ball here and tarot cards. And then, yeah, we had a visit from the Salamis family, previously the Beaker family and her relatives. And then, yeah, they brought their cat, and that is also how the kittens were conceived, of course. This is another picture from the business. I decided to have them sell some geodes in this case. I was looking for crystals because I felt like that made a lot of sense, but I couldn't find good ones, really. I found some Sims 4 to 2 conversions that I didn't really like, so I went with geodes instead. And this is pictures of the little kittens. And then, yeah, Nuada also has aged up into a teenager at this point. So that's sort of where the family is at the moment. So let's visit with the community lot. So here we are at the Oracle's Whisper. And this is a community lot, as I said, for Erin and Crystal to work at, even though Crystal is also in the paranormal career and not employed here, so I'm basically just summoning her in and having her do some work. So they're both employed here as mediums in the paranormal career. And this is what the lot looks like inside. So we have this entrance here and a big room for basically where the Sims arrive and where they can buy the geodes here. And this is where I had wanted Crystal to work because it made sense that she would want to sell this, I feel like. But then since she's not an employee, she couldn't do it. So I'm actually having Erin do that now. And then there's a room in here where I have set up for a sort of speed dating session kind of thing. So I made booths and then the Sims can sit privately chatting with each other. And that's something that I'm gonna start doing at a later time, I think. I'm not really quite there yet. We have a lunchroom for Crystal and Erin to use. They're working quite late, so it's more like a dining room, I guess. And then this is the room, well, the office room with the crystal ball that I use whenever the Sims come over here. And yeah, they have sessions with, well, it's going to be Crystal now then, since Erin is using the shop there. And yeah, that's basically it. And then upstairs we have this landing, some bathrooms, and an office that I don't really use. It's just here for decoration at the moment. Maybe I'll use it in the future. But basically what I've done with this shop is, after racking my brain trying to come up with what would this Oracle's business even be about, what could my Sims gain from this, and I was considering making it a true medium business, that they were going to be able to communicate with dead people, but I couldn't figure out a good way to manage that really, and I don't really have that many dead Sims that my playable Sims could be interested in at the moment. Maybe that's something for the future. But something that I did realize is a problem in my neighborhood is that it's sometimes difficult to find a good way for my Sims to find romantic interests. And basically, if they haven't found one of my playables or through normal gameplay interaction, I needed some other way to find their romantic match, their one true love, so to say. So this has sort of become sort of a dating business. And that's what the speed dating area is all about as well. And what I do when they enter into this room is that I make that Sim selectable and take a look at, their aspiration, their star sign, what their turn-ons and turn-offs are, and so on. And I go ahead and add them into my spreadsheet. As you can see here, this is sort of what I have put together for this business. And of course, I have Erin and Crystal here as mediums, but I also figured that if someone wants to be a tarot card reader, that could also work. But then here I am adding in a column for blind dating. And this is the Sims that have shown up here randomly so far. And I also have this opportunity to add in any Sim that I am currently on the lookout for a partner for. And I add in the details about them here and try to find a match, someone that they could fall in love with. And I have also taken some pictures here from the Sims Wiki, something that affects chemistry. So for example, if you look at the aspirations, romance goes well together with pleasure and family goes well together with knowledge. And then you have some other combinations that are not as high of a score, but it's good to take a look at this to try to find good matches. Same thing here with zodiac signs. Some zodiac signs that goes really well together, and then some that really goes really badly together. So that way I can sort of figure out who would be good candidates, basically. And of course, also, if they have the same aspiration or the same zodiac sign, they're going to be attractive to each other as well. So that is what I have started to work with, and hopefully that will help me find partners for some of my Sims. I have Kristen, for example, who has been single for years and years and years and years. And I'm not sure if she will ever find a partner, but she's sort of in the program. And then another interesting one is DJ Verse that I've had a very difficult time finding a partner for. And I was also thinking about Monica Bradford, but it looks like I haven't added her on here yet. So that's something that I'm going to have to do eventually. But in order for only the Sims who are in need of a partner to show up on the lot, I have actually gone ahead and added some settings in with the visitor controller for this lot. I'm just going to see if I can spawn that. There we go. And then what I have done is under, I think it was characteristic. Yeah, here, ban attached and ban lovers. So any Sim who is married, I think it is, or engaged, and I'm assuming any Sim who is in love with someone else is going to be banned from this lot showing up randomly. I think possibly that this ban lovers isn't really working though, because I think that I've had Sims who are in love with other Sims having shown up. Rip, for example, has shown up here, and he's in love with some people. So yeah, actually this one, I'm not sure actually. Maybe it is that if he's on the lot, one of his lovers won't show up. Not sure. because that hasn't happened yet. So I guess maybe that is what it is. But that is what I have done. And of course, also the ages. I only allow adults. So yeah, that's what this is all about. And yeah, it's not really a profitable business. It's more like a fun way to play the active career of the medium business, I would say. And speaking of Rip, here we are at the apartment complex where he still lives. It's in the same apartment as I showed you last time. And he doesn't have a roommate right now. I don't remember if he did back when I showed you last time, but this room is now empty. And yeah, he's the owner of the bookstore. But let's start by just checking out his story as well. So this is from when he was a teenager, and he had his first kiss with Tina. And then Tiffany had her first kiss with Rip. And yeah, there's a lot of pictures missing here from his young adult life stage, but he was living in that student dorm that I showed you in the first video. And this is after he has aged up into an adult and moved in here, and he's meeting up with Jill for the first time, and they're starting to get together, but he's also meeting up with Daisy and Marissa, who eventually ended up giving birth to his love child, even though the man that she was married to knew nothing about it, and he still to this day is raising Rip's child. So that's still a thing going on. And of course, Marissa met her demise. And Rip also kept seeing Tiffany. She was the one who messed up his relationship with Tina, but they kept seeing each other as well. He started dating Jessie Pilferson, one of the students from La Fiesta Tech. And this is after he got a roommate, David Shaw, who lived together with him for a while before he eventually married his partner. And this is when Rip had just invited Jill over for a date, and she stood waiting for him like this. And I just thought that this was such a striking pose with so much attitude that I just had to snap a picture of it. And this sort of, I don't know, it was probably after this moment that I started to look a little bit differently on Rip and Jill's relationship. Like they had a deeper connection than what Rip had with all of his other lovers. And after that point, things turned very, very steamy between these two. And this is actually a picture from a very recent wedding. I think it might have been during David Shaw's wedding to Sarah Love. And basically what happened was that they were dancing and having fun with everyone else. And all of a sudden, Rip approached Jill and started to kiss her right in front of his own other love interests and also in front of her other love interests. And things turned a bit messy, but the two of them snuck off into the kitchen and had a very romantic moment here, slow dancing together. And I don't know, it was just so heartwarming somehow that they are star-aligned lovers against all odds, kind of. So, yeah. That's how things have progressed. And this is a picture of Rip visiting his very, very close friend Almeric, who's still close to him and knowing that he has a daughter that is Rip's. And this is little Alicia, who is actually Rip's daughter. And she snuck up on him, feeling some sort of strong pull towards him for some reason that she doesn't understand herself either. But yeah, she stood looking at him from behind for a while, and he didn't really take notice of her. So Rip, of course, doesn't know that she is his, but I think that taking a look at the similarities between them, she looks a lot like him. And him also knowing that Marissa was with him soon before she fell pregnant, there might be some suspicion there. But so far he hasn't said anything, and I'm not sure if he ever is going to mention anything, because he knows that if he would break up that family unit. And being a romance sim himself, I'm not sure how interested he would be in approaching that relationship with her. But we're going to have to see what happens there. And this is a picture from the bookstore that we're going to visit soon. And another picture of Rip and Jill. And this has actually become such a strong thing for Rip that he has rolled a wand to marry Jill. And I have decided that when he was a teenager and a young adult at the start of this whole thing, he was actually a hopeless romantic. He was deeply in love with Tina Andrews at that point, and he didn't want anything to do with any other lovers, despite being a romance sim. But then when everything sort of went to hell after Tiffany flirted with him and Tina got jealous and all of that, he has sort of reverted to the classical romance sim who is sleeping around with everyone. But now with this very close relationship that is budding with Jill, I think that he's going to go back to being a hopeless romantic. He's going to say goodbye to all other lovers and just focus all his attention on Jill. What is going to happen from Jill's point of view, though, is still a big question mark. I don't think she has the same priorities or the same ideas that Rip has, but maybe he can win her over eventually. That's my hope anyway. So what is happening in his career is that I have changed him out to the convenience store clerk position in the Slacker career instead of keeping him in the journalism career, because I didn't feel like that really suited with having a bookstore. And I'm thinking that the bookstore is sort of the way that he's going to want to go after this point and develop that as much as he can. And that's actually something that is really fun to have in the neighborhood as well, because that means that I can make all of my Sims novels sellable. And that is a mod that allows that, to have sellable novels. So when you put them up for sale and then the Sims restock them, and then they can be put for sale again, which is really, really neat. And I have also gone ahead and made use of a very old trick that I was told about very kindly by Paolo. So Paolo, if you're watching this, thank you so much. I've started to use that trick and it's really, really cool. And that was something that was taught by Jessa on the Jessa channel as well. She showed this off years and years ago, and as I understand it, she learned this from someone over on Mod The Sims originally. So it's gone from person to person, and now I'm going to show it to you if you don't already know it. So basically what it is a trick that you can use to duplicate novels. And you're going to use no mods or anything like that. You're just going to use the inventory to make that happen. So what I have done here for the bookstore, I can show you that first actually, is that I have once again used my spreadsheet. And this is just a long list of all the novels that my Sims have written so far and that I want to be put on sale. So you can see I have a tab here for in stock, and most of them are already located at the bookstore right now, but I actually have a few of them that were very recently written by some of my Sims. So I can use those to show you how to work this trick. So for example, I have Barbara Young, who has written a novel called Reds and Whites, and that one needs to also go up for sale. So I'm going to go ahead and, the easier way to do this is, of course, to use the Sim Blender to just summon the Sim in. I could, of course, just invite her over as well, but let's summon her in with the Sim Blender. There we go. I'm going to make her selectable. And then what I am doing when my Sims are writing novels is that I put them always into their own inventories. So I actually have both the novels that she's written here, and Reds and Whites is the one that she has written most recently. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the floor. And then I'm going to go to Rip's inventory, where I have saved this side table. A side table is what you're going to need to make this work, and it's going to have to be, as I understand it, a Maxis one, so it can't be custom content. It has to be something that comes from the game, otherwise it won't work. That's what Jessa said, so I'm going to trust that. And that's why I'm using this from the IKEA set, but you can use any side table to make this work. And what you're going to do is go into the inventory here. You're going to take the book. You're going to bring both the book and the side table into the inventory. You're going to take it out again. You're going to put the book on the floor. Take the side table and put it back into the inventory. And then, without doing anything else, immediately move to the Aspiration Reward tab. Move back to the inventory. And then, when you click on the table here again, you can see it has the book. And there's two versions of the same book. And you can do this infinitely to just make copy of the copy of the copy of a book. But something that I have noticed is if you have several books to do at once, you have to actually exit out of the inventory screen like this, and then go back here again to continue with the next book, because otherwise what will happen, even if you put another book on the side table and do the same trick again, is that you're going to get the first book. So that's what's happening. But yeah, so that's a really neat trick, and that also allows me to have the author keep the original themselves, whereas Rip gets a copy that he can put up for sale in his bookstore. So yeah, I'm gonna add this one back to Barbara, and I'm gonna make her unselectable. I can clear her off, and then I'm gonna do the same thing for the other Sims. There we go. So that was all of them. And I've also gone ahead and changed then in my spreadsheet to yes for in stock. So I know that that's all resolved. And yeah, so with that done, Rip has all of the books he needs, and I can go ahead and move over to the bookstore. And here we are at the Body's Ripper, and it's right next to Oracle's Whisper here along the big road. And yeah, if we go into the bookstore, this is what it looks like. Of course, a lot of bookshelves, and as you can see, we have all of the sellable novels here. And some of them are lying on their backs like this. Unfortunately, it doesn't look very good, but that is just what happens when you restock the book. Unfortunately, that's just where the books spawn. I don't know if you've noticed, but sometimes when you leave a book on the floor and move away from the family, and then the next time you come back, it's similarly lying like this on its back, or well, on its spine, rather. And it seems that's just how books are spawning. So maybe there's a mod out there somewhere that I have not been able to find. So please, if you do know about one, let me know about it. But yeah, so that's just what it looks like at the moment for me. And I'm going to go ahead then and tick out the books that Rip still has in his inventory. So we have Crypt by Kendall Lawson. You can put that one. I'm just clicking the M key to choose another position for it. Let's just use that one. We have Dark Desires by Jessica Riley. I guess we can put that one there. Then we have Rising Tides by Crystal Salamis. And I guess we can have that one over here. And then the last one is Reds and Whites by Barbara Young. Let's just have that one there. And then the last ones are just written by Rip. This was one that he wrote after Tina had broken up with him. That's pretty funny. It's called Poetic Failure. His love was sweet. His love was true. He saw her cheat. They were through. And I think that was a pretty poor seller, actually. He didn't get very much from that. So it was his first attempt at a novel. So yeah, and this basically runs like a normal store. So he's going to open the business, visitors are going to come purchase the books. But what's cool about this is, of course, that my playables are going to have actual books in their bookshelves. And that's so nice. And yeah, it's really only possible with that mod, sellable novels. So I really highly recommend doing that if you have a lot of Sims in your neighborhood and a lot of books lying around. And this is actually something that I would love to do in my Pleasant View as well, because there's quite a few Sims who have written books there too. So yeah, that would be nice. I just had to sort of figure out who would be a good candidate to run such a bookstore. So next up is the Worthington household. And this is a house that I modeled after the Smith household right next to it. I wanted one in the same style that made things blend in more with the neighborhood. Similarly, this one also has some green lawns, but it's also sort of curving like this to make a smoother blend from grass to sand, I guess. So I felt like that was nice to have. And of course, Francis J. Worthington needs to have a big, expensive house. So that just made sense, I felt like. And he's out here in the garden paying attention to Buddy, the dog that he has adopted. And then inside of the house, this is what the upstairs looks like. And I'm thinking of maybe extending it to the left if needed in future, but for now this works well. And then this is the downstairs, so yeah, pretty big as it is. And then they can access the garage out here as well. And Frances is living together with the Kana Shaw, who is engaged to at this point. So they have started up their life together. And both of them are interested in arts and crafts, so they are having their easels next to each other here. If you go ahead and take a look at their photos, we have some of Kana's childhood pictures. So she's the little girl with the buns here, who has her back turned towards the camera. And this is her as a teenager, of course, loving painting and strange color combinations, I guess. She's always been having her own sense of style. This was when she was a young adult and met Francis for the first time. And this was just in his house at La Fiesta Take that I didn't really take the time to renovate because I just sort of sped through his young adult stage to get to his adult stage and start playing him. And this is when he has aged up into an adult and just moved into this house, and he is in this very expensive car on the way to his a community lot, I think it was, or something like that. He has started to meet and interact with my Sims as well, started to grow connections, and at one point he started to get really, really close to Kendall Lawson, and he started up a romance with her while Kana was still at university. And I had in mind that Kendall was actually gonna accept him. This was when her brother randomly came over, and they didn't really get along that well, so I thought it was a bit funny. But yeah, she eventually decided to not accept his advances, even though I was thinking that maybe she would, because she's a fortune sim and maybe she wanted him for the money. But it turned out that in the end, she couldn't go through with it, and they broke things off. And after that, Francis decided to commit himself completely to Kana instead. He got the puppy and started up his business selling art at the art studio. His dog aged up, and this is after Kana has just moved in with him after she has graduated. And he brought her out into the garden and popped the question. So they are now engaged to be married, and I'm preparing for having a beautiful church wedding today, probably, actually. Yeah, this is a very romantic, nice picture of them. So they are just starting up their lives together, and so far Francis, has his own business. I'm having him employed as a vice president in the business career at the moment. So he's gonna stay around that level, or maybe one step up or something, I think. So yeah, let's move over to his business and take a look. And here is the gallery, a very modern looking building with a lot of angles. And here at the back, there's this little garden with some statues as well. A lot of angled windows and stuff here. And going down to the ground floor here, this is the area where the customers will arrive. So it's just a normal business where I sell expensive art pieces and have my Sims come and buy them. And it's nice to actually have these and then them ending up in their inventories. And then I can, if I want them to keep them, put them up on their walls as well. So that's also pretty nice. And I was thinking about maybe adding in some paintings that my Sims had painted themselves here as well. Unfortunately, the issue with doing that is that, as I found out from playing my Pleasant View series, I think it was, there's this thing with how the paintings are coded. They're connected to the house where the Sim painted the painting, as I understand it. And if they ever move away from that house, even if the painting belongs to someone else, then the risk is that the painting will disappear, because that memory or whatever it is of where the painting was painted disappears, I guess. And then it sort of blanks out into that sunset painting that is one of the default ones, unfortunately. So that is my fear, that if I do put some of the paintings up for sale that my Sims are painting, eventually they're just gonna blank out and not be usable anymore. So yeah, probably I won't do it for that reason, which is a shame because it's pretty fun to have that option as well. But yeah, that's why I have just put in buyable paintings here and not one of the custom ones. But yeah, so going up here, one staircase up, then this area is just meant for employees. And of course, Francis is using this space. So just a lunch area. And this is Francis's office where he can sit and work whenever there's time for that. And then some office space for other employees. So far, he has only just gotten one. I actually did create a tab in the spreadsheet for him as well. So this is the Artworth gallery, and I have employed Tiffany as a junior executive. So she's going to be employed here. And I guess that she can help out with selling paintings to customers and maybe, work on articles and do some paperwork, I guess, upstairs to get some extra funds in. Whereas Francis is actually going to do the grunt work downstairs then, unless he employs someone who can do the cash registering or something. But then he's going to be the vice president for the Worthington enterprises. And my idea here is that I'm going to fill this out with more businesses down the line. So depending on what I choose for him to do, then it's going to fill out. And I started with a gallery because he, as I said, he's interested in arts and crafts. So I felt like this was a good thing for him to start with, something that he's interested in and something that he really enjoys. So that's what this is. And with this one done, we actually only have one community lot left. So let's move over to the Grant household. So here we are in the Grant household, and these are the owners of 2 community lots, actually. Of course, General Buzz has the military base, but then also Nancy has the daycare center. So that's why, again, I don't like doing this, having 2 Sims with ownable business in the same household, but this just sort of is how it worked out, and I'm going to have to make do with it. Maybe down the line I can do something to split it up somehow, but for now, this is how it's going to go. And quite a lot of things has happened in this household. This is one of the more dramatic ones, as you might imagine. So as you can see, Tank and Nancy have actually gone married. And then we have their little child, Lila Grant, that Nancy is holding in here. So that is a namesake for Tank's dead mother, of course. And she's a little blonde girl, so that's nice. But then we also have Scout back in this household. Last time we saw her, she was living with her mother in another house, and she detested her father. So things have changed around a bit here, and I'm going to get to why. Let's start by looking through the family album. So this is where we are started with General Buzz and Buck working on his physical skills, and Buck flirting with his boyfriend that he kept a secret from his father. And this was when Buzz and Margaret got married, or well, engaged and then married, I guess. Scout was born, and little Evan was taught to talk. And this is from back when Tank and his roommate Blair moved into their apartment, and they had this gym upstairs. And Tank also befriended Almeric Davis at this point, who was a neighbor, and they also hosted a party for the Sims their own age, and got to know people a lot more. So this was actually something that was kind of good for Tank, because when I played him at university, he was detested by everyone. He didn't have one friend in the world. But Blair was really good for him as a roommate, because he encouraged Tank to get to know people more, and he's actually grown to have quite a lot of friends now. So it was good for him, therapeutic, to actually live with someone who has good social skills, to learn from him and get some close relationships besides his family, that is. And then Margaret was working with Scout, and things went down with Evan. This is again from the military base, some pictures. And something that's been going on with Tank is that he has had a very hard time to settle down with someone. For a very long time, he was romantic with Vicky Hourvitz, and I gotta say, I kind of ship these two together because Vicky is a really cool sim, and I feel like her personality really fits well together with Tank. And he is also, has been in love with her for the longest time, but she never fell in love with him, which was very sad. She actually fell in love with other people besides him. She kept seeing other people than him, and he kept getting hurt by her. He actually had his first kiss with her even, but then since she wasn't being very warm to him, he also started to get to know Nancy more, and that was just a random townie, or dormie rather, that he had met at La Fiesta Tech, and I eventually ended up making her playable as well, just to get to know her better. And they went on a few dates, and of course Tank started to get closer to Blair and Blair's girlfriend Kendall as she moved into their apartment as well. Things went down between Buzz and Margaret, leading to their divorce, and Tank and General Buzz kept supporting each other throughout it all, and kept working together as well. Tank started working in the military after university. And this is from when actually Scout was living together with her mother and brother, and got closer with Rip as well, who was babysitting every now and then. But then this thing happened, and as I mentioned in the previous episode, General Buzz was very abusive towards his previous wife, and he's quite influential and has a lot of connections. So even though he basically committed a crime, he got off scot-free, and he also actually used those same connections to bully them into giving him full custody of Scout. And this is when he arrived at Margaret's house to take the little girl away, and it was all very, very sad. And after Scout had arrived to the Grant household, she was sort of locked into her room, and she sat on the bed here cuddling her teddy that she had brought with her. And of course, General Buzz wasted no time in molding her into the little fighter that he wanted her to be. So he cut her hair short and gave her more practical clothing, I guess you could say, and started to teach her how to cook food, clean dishes, do chores, and she met Tank, and he started to also train her with the military equipment to build up her physique, because he wanted her to grow strong and independent, and he wanted to build her into someone who could follow in his footsteps, basically, because he sort of got a new chance after failing with both Rip and to some extent with Buck as well. So now he wanted someone to basically do the same thing that Tank has done, to become a copy of him. And throughout this whole thing, of course, Scout hates her father so much, but she has also grown to know him now, and she can see sides of him that are more gentle, and something that can be a little bit redeemable, even though he's a very, very mean old man. So they have actually grown closer through just living together. And then, of course, Tank kept seeing Nancy, and kept seeing Vicky as well. And Scout grew into a teenager and kept up doing the chores. And she eventually met someone that she had as a romantic interest, and that is Atom Baker. Both of them are romance sims, so this is definitely not going to be something that's long-lived, I don't think. But they found each other and had some fun time together, I guess. And she kept working on her physical skills, and this is when Tank moved in with his father again, because Blair and Kendall were getting married and had a child, and they were just, it was time for them to part ways. And since things had not gone that well for Tank in his romantic life, and the girls that he was seeing, for Vicky's part, she refused to fall in love with Tank. And Nancy had fallen in love with Tank, but Tank wasn't in love with her. So I was doing everything that I could to find the one for Tank. And this is one of the other playables in La Fiesta Tech that I have only just aged into an adult, actually. So this is Jasmine Ray. And they had a date and some fun together. But in the end, he didn't fall in love with her either. And she didn't. I think that she actually fell in love with him, though. But yeah, that was just a short date fling kind of thing that didn't lead anywhere in Tank's mind. So Tank grew a little bit closer with Scout. They started working out together, and Scout had more dates with Atom. And finally, I was sort of almost fainting with relief at this point, but eventually Tank actually fell in love with Nancy, and he took her out to the park and proposed to her. And of course, she said yes. And it was after that point that finally they could get married. So they went to find the wedding outfits together. And this is the church wedding that they had. So this is her walking up to the altar and them giving their vows, exchanging rings. And this is General Buzz toasting to the newlyweds. And as you can see, Buck attended the wedding, but of course Rip didn't. This is them eating cake. And just the party going on. And we can see also Buck and his boyfriend Amin dancing together here as well. So that has all been accepted by the family. Things weren't as dramatic as Buck was fearing as a teenager. And even though, of course, General Buzz would prefer it, I guess, if he was also straight. I don't think that that is something that is a deal breaker for him, as Buck has still been a good son in his eyes. He could definitely be better in General Buzz's eyes, but he's not excluded from the family, after all is said and done. And after that point, we also had Nancy get pregnant. She actually got pregnant at the same time as they were trying out wedding outfits in that clothing booth. So it was sort of like a shotgun wedding as well, to not have that baby bump while she was wearing the wedding dress. And this is after she has just given birth to a little baby girl, and that is where things are left at the moment. So yeah, Scout still has a few days left until she is a young adult, but that is the point when she will be out on her own and can finally break free from the oppressive, overbearing father she has now, who has sort of forced her to live here and forced her away from her mother. And hopefully she can reconcile with Margaret eventually and pick up where they left off. But we'll have to see what happens there. All right, so speaking of the community lots, then we have Nancy, who is the elementary school teacher, but that is for the daycare center. So I'm gonna have her drive off to her community lot and let's take a visit. And here is Sunflower Daycare, and this is what it looks like from the outside, and then going inside, this is what it looks like. And I've already gone ahead and summoned in the toddlers that I'm gonna play with today. And something that I'm doing with these is that I'm not making them selectable. I am actually going in here to family and moving them in with this menu. So I'm click move in and then the name, and then they're gonna appear here in the menu for her. And this is actually gonna allow her to treat them as family in such a way that she can interact with them properly. There's also another way to do that, and that is a mod that I'm using to make them treat as family like this. That enables quite a lot of options as well, and you can easily remove from family. That's neat to have if you have several employees at the daycare that's not going to be moved in, but they need to be able to take care of the toddlers, then they can treat them as family, and that is going to be resolved. But the The good thing about moving them in is that they're now going to be part of the Grant household, which is actually going to allow me to properly play with their families without them in the household, allowing them to go to work and do everything that they need to get through their day. And then in the afternoon, I'm going to summon them back into their proper households and move them back in. And that is actually going to simulate them being away for the day, enabling their parents to actually get on with whatever they need to do. And this is another one of those that I play in my Pleasant View Let's Play series, if you're interested to see more of what you can do with the daycare center as well. So yeah, Nancy is gonna take this day to hang out with the toddlers, teach them skills. They can play with each other. She's gonna feed them. They can take nap times and so on. And if there's ever any time over, she can also work here in her office, but normally that's not the case at all. So yeah, that's the final community lots. So let's move over to the neighborhood view again. All right, so we gotten quite a few families out of the way actually, and I'm just gonna go into the households of the families who have had the most interesting / dramatic story, I think, and then probably just walk you through a bit quickly in neighborhood view the remaining ones after that point. So why don't we continue with the Howe family then, sort of where we left off with the story. So let's see things from Margaret's point of view. So this is the house. This is where Margaret now lives with her son and a new addition to the family, and then also with 2 dogs. And the house looks pretty much the same as when we left it last time. I just extended the bathroom a little bit because I was having issues with the dogs being able to jump in and out of this bathtub to get washed. But yeah, this room that was Scout's room once upon a time is left as is when she left it. And that is something that Margaret has really kept close to her heart. This room, this door has been locked for all Sims for the longest time. And I wasn't sure how this was going to go because Margaret was really depressed after everything that happened with Scout. And she randomly rolled a wand to learn lifelong happiness. And I used that as a means to actually have her work through her mental health issues and to actually come to terms with what had happened and eventually unlock this door and allowing people in here again. So moving a pet pillow in here was actually a big step for her. And I'm thinking that eventually she's gonna be okay with her new daughter actually taking over this room. So currently she's staying here in Margaret's room at the end of her bed. So yeah, that's how things have been going so far. And let's take a look at the photo album. So again, we have Buzz proposing, little Scout growing up, everything that happened with a fight. And then they moved into this house. This was little Evan when he was a child. And he is, of course, the son of Abhijit, Show, and Margaret. So he is into tinkering, and this was his little helicopter as a child. And Margaret was very attentive as a mother and made sure to teach little Scout to study. And as I mentioned, Rip came over every now and then to babysit as well. And this is when the fling between Margaret and Gerard actually started. And up until this point, he had been, I think, maybe even in love with her, but she wasn't interested in him. So she had rebuffed all of his attempts to get close. But after she had split from General Buzz, she needed the comfort of someone. And she dove head first into this relationship, and they grew closer, and she started to take comfort in him. Also, Abhijit connected with his son after this was happening as well. He had not been able to come visit when she was living with General Buzz, but now that she was alone, Abhijit has been able to be part of his son's life in a completely different way. And of course, Evan aged and started work on cars. So that is his biggest interest right now, to refurbish cars, sell them to make a profit and so on. And this was when Scout was taken away to her father's house. And of course, Margaret had the mental breakdown here. She was really, really sad about this whole situation and felt hopeless. There was nothing she could do to get her daughter back. And in that whole situation with all of that going on, randomly, this really cute dog wandered onto the lot, and Margaret started to interact with her and drew comfort from her, and eventually ended up adopting her even. So that was how she got to know Tiffany. And then Tiffany became a part of the family with hanging out with Evan here as well. And this was one of the date nights that Margaret had with Gerard. And things led to another, and Margaret was still pretty much depressed, but she was starting to wanting to have a sort of rebound child, you could maybe say. Since she had lost her daughter, she was desperate to fill that hole that was left in her heart with something, and she manipulated things a little bit when she was intimate with Gerard, and eventually also grew pregnant again. And that was a way for her to come to terms with things as well, besides studying lifelong happiness. So she gave birth to this little daughter, and she took care of her. And this is also when I started to experiment more with the pets, and Tiffany met with the dog that she was going to have puppies with. That is Johnson Lawson's dog. And then the puppies were born, 3 little cute ones. And this is a little girl cuddling with one of them. And one of them went to the loner household. So this is Lola picking the puppy up. And the other puppy went to the young household. So this is River picking that puppy. And she took care of her new daughter. And Evan was hanging out with some friends here, interacting with the dogs. And he actually also finally ended up finding a girl that he was interested in, and that is Lily Lost, actually, Johnny Smith's and Kristen Lost's daughter. And I actually was surprised that they had pretty good chemistry, because this seems to be very unlike one another, but they were very cute together, and had some fun times here on the couch. So actually, I don't think that we're going to visit the Lost household, so I can also tell you that. But funnily enough, I had invited him over to her house one of those days to hang out and have a date at home, I think it was. And randomly, because Margaret and Kristen are colleagues, and they're also best friends, they're really, really close. So she was actually invited over after work, and walking into the house, she just walked by her son and his girlfriend, and she saw them together and made thumbs up. And I, of course, snapped a picture of that, because that was just too funny. But I think that Margaret and Kristen are very happy that their children have found each other, and they're both approving of their little cute relationship. But let's see what happens in the future for them. But I just thought that was very adorable, that genuine reaction from her. So the new little daughter is called Sybil, and she is not exactly recognized by her father, because he is desperately trying to keep that whole thing secret. He is having a very comfortable family life in that big house and everything. Of course, he doesn't want anything to ruin that. And now he's also the local priest. So he's the last person who should be sinful, He should be a good person, and having this relationship on the side of his marriage is definitely not a good thing. So Margaret is keeping that to herself for the moment, at least. And we're gonna have to see if Sybil eventually figures things out. I think that's it for this family, really. So let's move on to the next. So right next to the Howe family, we have the Davis family. And this is actually also a household that has grown quite dramatic, and that we might take a look at. So this house was modeled after the Terrano house that I built, so it's pretty similar in layout, but a little bit bigger, and I decided to put the kitchen upstairs this time instead, and then the living room downstairs to make a little bit of a variety. And I have both Almeric and Aldrich Davis living here together, which is kind of nice because that was what I was hoping for when I actually graduated them from university and had them move into their own apartment, that they would end up living together for a long time. That's not how things went down, though, and it's nice to actually have them back to sort of square one, if you could say that, and back in the same household. And of course, now they also live together with their children. We have Almeric's daughters, Audrey, and in here we have Alicia, who is technically Rip's, but he doesn't know that. And then we also have Aldrich's son, Ortus, living here as well. And Ortus is still living with his mother as well. So I have started to alternate where he is living from day to day. So actually what I'm going to have to do for Monday is that I'm going to start by playing Genesis' household and use the sim blender to summon him in and then move him into that household so that he's part of her household. And then come Tuesday, he's going to move back in here with Aldrich. So that's how I am kind of alternating days for the children who have separate parents. And well, that is spoiling it a little bit, I guess, but some things have happened here in Aldrich's relationships. But let's take it from the beginning in the storybook. So, of course, this is when they had just graduated and moved into the same apartment. They were working out together, Almeric doing it quite successfully and Aldrich not so much. And they were having, attending this party, I think. And this was when Almeric met Marissa for the first time and started to go out with her. And eventually, I think that this was actually the same night that they had their first woohoo and she accidentally became pregnant. So it was after that point that I even had to move her into his household. She is pregnant here and Aldrich was working on his music skills. And Marissa gave birth to little Audrey. And just a character shot of her as I was trying to get to know her. And this is when Aldrich met Genesis for the first time and they had their kid dates and started to like each other more. And Almeric was also introduced to Genesis at the gym and he became a very loving and doting father for his little girl. And Marissa was also looking after her, of course, but things were not enough for her, so she went to see other men on the side and eventually fell pregnant once more with Rip's baby. And at the same time, Aldrich and Genesis were getting closer. They were playing a lot of music together. And she actually also happened to become pregnant accidentally. So that was when little Ortus was born as well. And they moved into the same household after this point as well. So that Aldrich could look after his son too. At the same time, Almeric was interacting a lot with his little daughter, waiting for his new child to be born and being very excited about it. And Marissa had decided to sort of pull the wool over his eyes and just pretend as if nothing was amiss. And then she started to give birth and just a little warning that these pictures might be a little bit intense, so if you're sensitive to that kind of thing, maybe look away. So she ended up passing away from childbirth and the Grim Reaper appeared to take her away. And that was also the point when Almeric became a single father and had to look out for little Alicia on his own. And if you looked away, you can look back now again. Yeah, so this is him just giving her the bottle and I got this nice character shot of him as well, giving a face, but he was all alone, having to look after his children and trying to figure things out after his girlfriend passed away. At the same time, Aldrich was taking care of little Ortus, and he was also having some trouble with his stepdaughter, Faith. She was misbehaving and was not listening to him at all, and her relationship with her mother was very, very tense and strange. Genesis had become pregnant, not through her own will, really. She was imprisoned and was fed love potion, and she became pregnant with Spectre's a nervous subject at that time, his child. And the relationship was never quite good after that. Even though she loved her daughter, she also carried all of the trauma with her. So she tended to just push away all of the parenting onto Aldrich. So he had to sort of play the bad cop and try to lecture her. But of course, Faith didn't really take him that seriously either, because he wasn't really her real parent and he wasn't bonded to her. So yeah, things were not really turning out well in that family unit for that reason. At that point also, Almeric was trying to find comfort in different places, and that was when he adopted Otis, the golden retriever from the adoption pool. And Otis became a beloved family member, bonded with the little girls as well, and things were starting to look better for them. Little Audrey grew into a child who liked tinkering, and Aldrich was focusing on his son throughout it all. That was one of the things that was very important for him, and he made quite a lot of sacrifices to make sure that his son was well and safe. And that was also something that he had decided to do after he moved in with Genesis, was to give up his dreams to become a musical artist. He resigned from the music career and instead took up a position in the education career. So for a while, Aldrich was actually the high school teacher before Monica took over that position. And he did that job, but he really hated it. It was not his calling at all. And he just sort of had to force himself to do it, to sort of make himself the breadwinner of the family, to support the children and his girlfriend. So yeah, he was making a lot of sacrifices to make things work. But unfortunately, that was not enough for Genesis. She was still very troubled by all the trauma that she had been going through, and she had quite a lot of fights with Aldrich as well, because of the tension of his work life and with Faith and everything going on with her. Things were not really that stable in their relationship, and also I don't think that their personalities were really that suited for a long-term relationship. Like they didn't really provide support for one another, and Genesis started to look elsewhere for that missing support, and ended up meeting this townie that I have had my eyes on for a while, that she actually had 3 bolts of chemistry with instead of the 2 bolts she had with Aldrich. And she started to flirt with him, and of course Aldrich walked out on them and saw them and got really, really upset. Like, here he was making all of these sacrifices for his family, and then as soon as he turns his back, Genesis goes out and flirts with other men. So we actually had a fight with this townie. He was called Justin Platts at that point, but now of course he's married Genesis, so he's Justice Lamb now. But yeah, they had a fight that Aldrich unfortunately lost. At the same time, Almeric actually started to get his act together and moved out into this house to focus more on family life and to have a bigger place of his own without those sad memories. And he kept taking care of his daughters, and that was also when Aldrich showed up on his doorstep, having just lost that fight and had a breakup with his girlfriend, and everything was just down in the gutter for him. And of course, his older brother was there to support him, and they started to live together after that point. So they started to draw strength from one another, and I think that this has been good for both of them to actually get back into the same household, being able to support each other with raising their kids and everything that comes with. And Aldrich started to pick up his guitar once more and started to get back his old interest in music, and more getting back into himself. Like, he's not forcing himself to be someone he's not anymore. He's actually trying to get his act together as well. And the little children and toddlers have been bonding together as well to sort of become more like a family unit here. And at first, Ortus didn't have his own bed before he got the bunk bed, so he used to sleep in Aldrich's bed when he came over. And there's some cute family pictures. And of course, both of them being popularity sims, they wanted to host parties. So this was one of those house parties that they've had here in this big house where a lot of sims can attend, and it's been really fun. And that was also during that party that Rip ended up sitting upstairs at the bar by himself, and little Alicia snuck up on him to take a closer look. And after that point, actually, Almeric has started to see someone, and that is Jasmine Ray, that Tank also had a little fling with. But yeah, that has actually started to grow into a nice little relationship. So I'm hopeful for the future for these two, and hopefully Almeric can get a good start over with someone who's more stable and someone who is actually only having eyes for him. And I am also, of course, on the lookout for a good partner for Aldrich. He is often attracted to the same sims that his brother is attracted to, only that he has less attraction with them. So right now, I'm not sure actually who he should set his eyes on. But yeah, I'm keeping working on that, and hopefully I can find a good partner for him eventually as well. But for now, I think that it's better for him to stay single for a little bit while he figures things out. But he has actually taken up employment in the science career now instead of the education one. And this aligns more with what he was studying. He was studying physics at the university. That's also something that is helping him get back to his roots and get back to his own person. So yeah, even though it's not music anymore, he still has this as a hobby, and he can focus on something that he can put his heart and soul into. And since we have talked about Faith, let's move on to the Spectre household next, where Nero Spectre lives, and now also his daughter, Faith Spectre, is living here as well. And she has also grown up into a teenager at this point. I think there's some disgusting food here. Maybe we can take a look at her in here instead. And she has actually grown into a quite stunning young lady with pimples now, unfortunately. But yeah, there's something about her that just reminds me a lot about Jinx, you know, in League of Legends. So yeah, maybe I should color her hair blue when she's in university to see what that looks like. But yeah, this is what she turned out like. And she has now moved in here with Nero, who is still working on building up his skills in order to get his personality points back. So far he has maxed out the neat and active ones, and then he's got one in shy as well. So he's got the playful and grouchy to go, or well, sorry, rather serious and grouchy to go. He's got 2 points in each, and he's very close to maxing out the creativity one. He's been painting, and last time I played, he actually painted this picture of Faith. So he's gonna have that immortalized here on this wall, which is pretty nice. So what happened for her to end up here then? Well, let's take a look at the album here. So of course, this is an old picture of Olive as she was passing away and reunited with her lover. And this is from back when Nero was locked into the basement at the Beaker house, how he overcame his enemy, defeated Loki, and met his father for the first time, transformed into this half-human, half-Grim Reaper being that he is currently. And yeah, building up his skills, adopting Grimalkin, Loki as a ghost, and him going to and from work by flying, which is really neat. The whole thing with going into Abhijit Show's apartment and eventually reuniting with Genesis and finding his daughter. And she started to come over to his place, and they started to interact with one another. This was actually Olive Spectre coming back to life in ghost form, so I thought that was pretty neat to get on picture as well. And this is when Faith all of a sudden appeared, carrying her cat Nex with her. And well, she's been living here with him ever since. So she decided to run away from home. She had been fighting with Aldrich and been disconnected from her mother for far too long, and she just couldn't stand it anymore. And getting closer with her father, and actually also having visited him here. She knew how to get here, and she decided to just pack all of the few things that she owned and bring her cat and move in here. So that is what she did, and well, this is where she has been living ever since. So she's been hanging out here with the pets and with her father, and she enjoys games. So she plays a lot on the mahjong table when Nero has been painting in the same room. And this is after she has only just grown into a teenager. And this was actually when she was reunited with Ophelia, who moved in next door. And Ophelia has been reuniting with Nero and getting to know him, and all the strange things going on here, but she has taken it in stride and is actually even really close to becoming best friends with Faith at this point. So that's really heartwarming to see her reuniting with them as well. So she's come over here for dinners, but she hasn't really brought her family over because this is more like a pretty special thing going on with a lot of dark memories for Ophelia as well. She grew up here together with Olive after all, and that was not a nice experience. So yeah, she's been keeping this to herself. I think she's probably talked to Laszlo about this, but it's not something that she wants to involve her children in at the moment anyway. Maybe when they're older. And they're keeping bonding, and this is actually from last time I played, and Faith has gotten a crush on a boy at this point. So she started to see one of the twins that Daisy Andrews had with Chloe Curious. So I think this is Crocus. She has Crocus and Harebell, and they are both teenagers now. And I decided to go back to naming them Andrews after all, because that was actually the last name that Daisy had when I moved her in. And since I already had a family at that point named Andrews, I decided to rename her to Anderson instead. But I never really liked that name as much. And to me, she was always Daisy Andrews, not Anderson. So after both Renee and Tina had gotten married and changed their last names, the Andrews family was gone anyway, so I decided to rename her back to Andrews, and that also made Crocus and Harebell have that last name as well. So that's why they are named that, and they actually shared their first kiss together as well. So even though her father is very much disassociated from society and is a supernatural being at this point, Faith is still a living, breathing human, and they started to enjoy life as a young woman, growing into her own. But there's also, of course, the dark family history that she also is a part of. And that is sort of where they are right now. So Nero is going to keep working on his skills, and Faith is going to keep working on everything that she's doing as a teenager and eventually as a young adult. And let's see where the story takes them from here. And next up we have this Smith household, where we last left this. Johnny had moved back in with his parents, and he still lives here with his mom and dad, who are growing quite old now actually, both of them. So I'm not sure how long they will last now, but they're still very, very happily living here with their son and their grandchildren. And well, there's been quite a few things happening here. So as you can see, we have Johnny here, and he's living with his wife, Tiffany Smith. So this is where Tiffany ended up. And her son, Theodore, is living here as well. He's actually going to be a teenager today, which is pretty exciting. And the house looks pretty much the same still. But of course, Theodore has taken over Johnny's old room here. And Johnny and Tiffany have moved in here. So, and they've actually also gotten their own 2 kids. We have a little Elliot, and then the very recent addition, Jessie Smith as well. So taking a look at the family album here, of course, it all started that Johnny was together with Kristen. She gave birth to little Lily, and the family these pictures we've already gone through. Jill had her first kiss with Samuel Hourvitz, and she also had a little flirt with Abhijit Shaw. And this was when Johnny moved in with Kristen and his daughter, and the family started to connect with her as well. But he decided that life was not for him. He had this panic attack and had to move back with his parents and leave his ex and his children behind. That was actually something that happened too, that Kristen got pregnant again and had little Clover at that point. And after that, Johnny was living here, and one of those days, Chloe wandered into the house, grabbed drinks one after another, and just sat here very sourly. And it had a lot to do with her past or natural instincts as a pollination technician. And things have really mellowed down for these two elders. But of course, Johnny is keeping things interesting with his parties and whatnot. He started to go out with a sim that he met at university. This is a sim that I have since made playable as well, that I have actually started to really, really like. At this point, her name was Elise Sentowski. But since Sentowski is a name that I use in my Pleasant View, I didn't really like the idea of her having that last name. And I was looking into what other last name I could give her and decided to dig up a last name from one of the extinct families in town that I thought was really nice sounding and something that I wanted to continue on with. So I renamed her to Elise Muenda. So she's going to continue on with the Muenda last name, and I'm thinking that she's like a distant relative of theirs that's been, keeping on with the last name, even though she's not close to the Muendas, who's in the family tree of Ophelia Nigmos and so on. So, but somehow they're related. And they really got along well. And this is after I had given her a makeover. And this was really when her personality started to come out. And I started to fall in love with her as a sim. And this is actually when they had a sneaky little woohoo out on a date. And Elise fell pregnant. So Johnny became a father again. And it wasn't planned this time either. And at the same time as this was happening, Johnny was also starting to go out with Tiffany. Now, Tiffany, for her part, has had a very rocky life, as you might know. She started going out with Rip, and at university, she started seeing Johnson Lawson, who was unfaithful to his wife at that point, and she accidentally became pregnant and showed up on his doorstep, of course, ruining that marriage. All this I've already gone through. Took care of little Theodore at the dorm at that point, teaching him everything that he needed to know. And eventually, after university was over with, at first, actually, she moved in with Johnson, who was living together with Abhijit Shaw at that point in that house. But that was not long lasting, and Johnson very quickly realized that he wanted to reconcile with his ex-wife and propose again and move back in with her. And it was after that point that Tiffany called it quits as well and decided to move back in with her parents. So she was really going through it, and she was desperately trying to find a way to not have to rely on people so much anymore, to have security, a good life. And that was when she started to look around for a partner who could provide that. And of course, she found Johnny. He was the sort of the perfect breadwinner in that regards, since he has this whole family fortune, a huge house, and everything going for him, good career and everything. So she decided to go with it. And this is after Elise gave birth to her twins. So this is little Inka and Iva. So Johnny has two daughters with her. And at the same time, of course, Johnny was starting to focus all his attention on Tiffany, sort of forgetting about Elise. He proposed to Tiffany, which was exactly what she was after. So she was overjoyed. And they had a wedding in the backyard. And this was another one of those situations where I actually had to use that cheat again, the social debug cheat, to actually get her to agree. But because it was just the story that I was going with, it just didn't make sense that she would leave him at the altar. So I decided to just force it this time. And they had this nice wedding with Ophelia as a guest, of course, as well, which was nice. And a lot of their family around them. And the pollination technician was bonding with Tiffany's father as well. And of course, Jenny was bonding with Jessica. And they had their little dance. And after that point, Johnny has started to get to know Theodore more, taking on maybe not a paternal figure because he's too immature for that. But they are starting to become friendly, at least. That's good. And Johnny got along well with his new wife, and she got pregnant. They adopted a puppy, and things were getting really domestic and nice. Tiffany gave birth to their son, and the puppy grew up into a dog. She has rolled these once to get fit, so I've been sending her to the gym a lot to work out. And it was at this point that the word had finally reached Elise that the reason why Johnny was refusing to come visit her and come over and come to see her and the babies was because he has gotten married, and she turned up on his doorstep and found them in a steamy embrace. And she ended up throwing a fit, being furious with him, of course, and things were not looking good at that point. And well, Johnny sort of had to deal with all of this blowing up in his face, which was his own fault, of course. He really has been handling all of this really immaturely, but he's taking that out on the piano, as you can see here. And meanwhile, Tiffany was just living life, keeping working on skills with her children. And actually, after a few, this is like at the end of the week, I think, and the other one was at the start, but quite a few days had passed after. And Johnny saw that Elise was randomly just walking by his house, stopped her, and they had a good conversation. So he actually managed to make her come around, and they are not exactly close anymore, but at least they don't hate each other's guts anymore. So that's an improvement. And I'm hoping that eventually, like really far down the line, that Johnny is going to be mature enough to want to seek out his daughters and have a relationship with them as well. And then little Elliot is learning to talk, and the family is being its own normal self. And as you can see, Johnny is really spending a lot of time playing around, having fun, while Tiffany is the one actually teaching the children skills and working with them. So Johnny might like making babies, but he's not very good when it comes to taking care of them, you could say. And he's really relying a lot on both his wife, but also his parents to step up and do things that he won't. And they are, of course, very doting parents and doing things for him. So there's really no one here to tell him that he's being an idiot. But yeah, so Johnny still has quite a lot of growing to do, that's for sure. And since then, they have actually had their second baby as well. Tiffany has started to bond with Johnny's parents as well, which is nice. And they've only just had their little daughter as well. So that is where the Smith family is at the moment. And amusingly enough, Johnny is a secondary family sim, and his lifetime wish is to marry off 6 children. And through all of his misdeeds and all of the things that he's been doing so far, whether they are good or bad, he actually has 6 children. So, I mean, all is well that ends well, I guess. So yeah, actually Pollination Technician 9 has a lot of grandchildren at the moment. I actually don't know exactly how many. 13 so far. So he's actually really close to reaching that milestone of 20 grandchildren that they keep rolling sometimes. So yeah, we're gonna have to see if he actually reaches that point before he passes away or not. At this point, I don't think that Lola will have any more children. And I mean, maybe Chloe. I don't think so, but I guess it could randomly happen. Johnny, I'm not planning on having had any more children, but being Johnny, you don't know what he's gonna decide to do. So let's see what happens. And then, of course, Jill also should have kids down the line, I think, in some way or other. My hopes and dreams are that she's going to fall madly in love with Rip, and they're gonna end up getting married and have kids together and grow the Vander Morgan family line down the line. But yeah, that is what I hope will happen. So let's see. So yeah, I think that's enough for this family. So let's move back to the neighborhood. All right, so we've gone through quite a few families in much detail now, and I think that is the families that have the most intense stories going on at the moment. And we can take a quick sneak peek at the rest of the families just in neighborhood view. So we have the Lost family, of course, living here with all of the little puppies. So that's Kristen and Lily and Clover living together. And I think Lily is quite close to becoming a young adult as well. So that's going to be exciting. And they also have a cat, actually, Leo, that they got before they got the dogs even. And we have the Terrano family that also has a cat and a little kitten. And that's actually a kitten that their cat had with Kristen's cat. So that's little Nala, I think I named her. Yeah. So Astra and Nala. And for the longest time, these two only had 2 children. It's Nova and Lyra. And they gave birth to one each. One of them was Joel's and one of them was Stella's. But I have been having them woohoo like every time that I've been playing them, and I've been rolling a d10 die each time that they have done so. And mind you, I have been rolling twice because I've been both rolling for Stella, but I've also been rolling for Joel to become pregnant as well because he's married to an alien, and that was sort of the rules that I set up for this neighborhood. And even though I've done that, they still haven't gotten pregnant. So that has been really baffling to me. But actually, finally, it did happen. Stella became pregnant one more time and very, very recently gave birth to little Aurora. And I believe that will probably be their last kid. I think that 3 is good enough. Actually, more than enough. So that is where that family is at. Down here, we have the Lawson family. And that is Blair and Kendall and their little son, Rory. And this is actually a family that I have been on the fence with because I did have them be together at university. That was when they started to date. And after Blair grew up, a bit before Kendall and while she was finishing up at university, I was kind of considering other options because even though they are very sweet together and very attracted to each other, it took them quite a while to fall in love, and things didn't really seem to be going that well. It actually wasn't until Kendall leveled up in her secondary romance aspiration and became more attractive that things were starting to get really, really easy for these two. But besides that, I also figured that they have extremely similar faces. It might even be the case that they have the exact same face template. So I found that was a bit boring. So that was why I was also considering other options for them. And that was also one of the reasons why I was trying to push Kendall towards a relationship with Francis J. Worthington instead. And I was figuring that she might be doing that for the money, that she wanted to marry someone with really, really great prospects. Even though Blair is a fortune sim, he is a bit of a wild card in that sense that he has a lot of potential to become really successful, but it will take time and it will be a little bit of a gamble. Whereas Francis, of course, already has all that. So that was sort of my idea for that. But even though Kendall is secondary romance, it turned out that she was too madly in love with Blair at that point to even consider doing anything romantic with Francis, even though I spent quite a lot of time trying to hook them up and see what happened, but she just refused. And that was also when she, I think, started to look at Blair in a different light, and he became more of her soulmate. And I actually made Kendall a hopeless romantic after that point, so she has that trait now in her inventory, so she will only have eyes for her husband. And that was the point when she decided to focus all her attention on Blair and popped the question as well. And after that point, she fell pregnant. And yeah, they have since moved into this beautiful little house and have gotten married. And yeah, they are finally having time to focus on their interests as well. So Blair has been working in the greenhouse behind the house, and Kendall has been writing more novels. So things are really looking bright for their future, I think. And moving on to this household with the apartments, like besides Rip's apartment, we have the Wrightley family, and they are a collection of guys living together in a pretty big apartment. So that's Guy Wrightley, Buck Grant, Matthew Hart, and Amin Walton. And of course, Amin and Buck are still a couple. Guy is dating Zoe Zimmerman, who was roommates with Jasmine Ray before. Oh, still is actually. And Matthew used to be together with Monica Bradford, but there's something about those two that just doesn't fit for me. I don't know what it is, but I just can't see them together. Even if the Sims are getting along well, they have two bolts of attraction, I think. I don't see it, and I don't think I'm gonna go with it for that reason. The kind of guy that I'm envisioning that Monica would fall in love with is probably someone a lot more mature than Matthew is, and maybe a little bit more scholarly than he is. And I think that Matthew probably is looking for someone who's wanting to have pets and kids and those kinds of things that Monica isn't really paying much attention to. So yeah, that is something that I'm gonna have to figure out down the line. But they are living together now, and they are having lots and lots of parties. And they're also going out to the factory to party as well, of course. So they're having lots of fun. Then we also have the Hourvitz family, and that is Vicky, Jesse, and Jill living together in an apartment as well. Similarly, they're also hosting a bunch of parties, and with all of them being interested in romance. Vicky is technically a fortune sim, but she's secondary romance. So all three of them are going out on a lot of dates, seeing guys, and basically having a lot of fun while they're trying to build up their careers at the same time. So both Vicky and Jesse are actually employed in the athletic career at the moment, and Jill is in the slacker career. So she's a record store clerk at the moment, and I'm also having her write novels, so that is something that she actually has in common with Rip. So I think that if they eventually do get married, they would love to have the business, like the bookstore, together. That would be really cute. And then I also have Samuel, who has only just moved in here with his roommate, Destry Hanike, who is one of the mascots actually in La Fiesta Tech. And it's another one of those townies that I have gotten to know and grown to really, really like, and decided to move him in also because he is in a relationship with one of my playable Sims, and that is Cameron Riley. So they found each other at university, and I decided to make him Samuel's roommate to sort of get to know him better. So let's see what happens there. We have the Curious household, and that is not very much changed since last time. Of course, Luna has moved to university at this point, so she's at La Fiesta Tech. But Radian is still living at home, and we have Tallinn and Pascal still together, of course. And they have adopted Cookie, which was a randomly generated stray that Radian met as a child. He was actually on his way to the school bus when all of a sudden this cute little dog appeared, and he was completely transfixed and actually decided to skip school that day to get to know Cookie and eventually adopt her, and that was how she became part of their household. And she's also had puppies, so one of the puppies is still with them, called Puzzle. So that's with that family. Going this way, we have the Salamis family that used to be the Beaker family. And that is after Cersei married Crystal. She decided to take back her maiden name. And they have actually also had, one child, and that is Cassiphone Salamis, who's going to continue on with that name as well. But then, of course, Crystal has her children with Bella Goth, who is now living with Chloe instead. And they have grown as well. So we have Beryl, who is a teenager at this point, for example. And this used to be a really, really dramatic family, and things really have the potential to become dramatic again. But they are sort of in a more calm, mellow phase at the moment. So that's a nice change, I think. Then we have the Macaulay family. And yeah, this is one of those just calm and cozy families to play with. Little Sybil has grown into a teenager, and also Horace. And Horace actually has turned out really, really stunning. He's one of those Sims that I didn't really think much about until he turned into a teenager. And then I was like, wow, where did you come from? So yeah, that's fun. And they have Penny and Dink, of course. And they've had puppies as well, but they have moved out to other households. Little Austin is now also a child. Then we have seen already the Curious household. So this is Vidkund and Holly and their children, and also their little cat, Albert, after Albert Einstein, of course. So we have Sievert, who has grown into a teenager at this point, and then Cattle and Lux, who are both children. And Sievert randomized as gay, so he has started to see another boy in town. They're not a couple yet, but they have been on one date and they've shared their first kiss together. And that is actually one of the Walton sons here. So we have Gary and Renee, and then Dominic and Henry still living at home. And Henry is actually the one who is together with Sievert. Well, who's having a crush on him at any rate. And they have some cats as well, little Artemis and Amaryllis. And we have seen these families, the Shaw family. So we have Matthew and Trista, who are both elders at this point, and their twins, Sonia and Serena, who are still living at home, but they're soon going to be moving to university as well. And then Dolly, who is an elder dog at this moment, and Mary, who's still living there. And this is actually a change that I decided to do with these houses, because I used to have this sort of apartment complex duplicated on both sides of the road here. And I just felt like both that it was a little bit boring to have the same sort of apartments on both sides. So it was 8 apartments that looked exactly the same. So I grew a bit tired of it and decided to bulldoze one of them. And also because I felt like the entire space wasn't really used up, because it was this middle strip where nothing could be done with it. So I decided to put in these connected row houses that I built instead. And I have since moved in the Shaw family, which is David and Sarah and their little Olivia. And then they also have Nosy living there with them. And this was actually the first family that I had a huge wedding at the church for. So that was the first one, and it was a really, really sweet ceremony. That was so much fun. So they have a lot going for them at the start of their careers. David is working at the hospital, and Sarah is working at the science facility in the natural scientist career. So she is Chloe Curious's colleague. And then we have the Lamb family living in the middle here. So this is where Ortus is going to go today to live with his mother. And that is, of course, Genesis and then her new husband, Justin. And they also got married in the church, actually, but they didn't really host a real wedding because then they don't have family around them, and I don't really know a lot of people either. So I just figured that it would be fine for them to just travel there and have a private ceremony at the altar. And it was really sweet. And then they have Snoopy. And they also have a daughter called Gaia. And that is actually a good change for Genesis, I think, in the end, because she wasn't... The relationship that she had with Aldrich was very sweet, but they weren't good for each other. So actually, I think that Justin is going to be a far better partner for her down the line, even if it was very dramatic the way things went down. We have the Desert Rose Collective, and this is pretty much the same as it was, but little boys have grown up into children, very close to becoming teenagers as well. And as you can see, there's a bunch of pets here now as well. So both cats and dogs in this household, and a lot of things going on. But yeah, mostly the same otherwise. We've already visited the grounds, and in this house we have the Muenda family. And this is actually where Nancy, yes, she's Nancy Grant now, but she was named Nancy Welsh before that. She was roommates with Elise, and this is where Elise is living with her two daughters, Inka and Iva, Johnny's children, who have now grown into children as well. And Anteros, who is Elise's cat. It is actually a cat that was conceived between Faith Spectre's cat Nex and also Bella Goth's cat Kim. So they still have Cupid living in their household, but then the Muenda family adopted one of them. And then Cameron Riley also moved in here into the spare room because Elise can't really afford this apartment on her own at the moment. So she needs a roommate, and Cameron gladly took that over rather than moving back in with her parents as her sister had done. We have the Bradford family, and that is Monica and DJ Verse living here together. And then Monica also adopted the other cat, Himeros. And Monica is working as a high school teacher at the moment. And of course, DJ Verse is a DJ in the Slacker career. So that makes a lot of sense. And both of them are sort of cursed when it comes to their love life, because I have a very hard time finding partners for them. So that is something that I am trying to work on. We have the Dosser family, and that is Mickey Dosser and Gunnar Rock, who are both romance sims and a little bit of losers, I would say as well. They're not very attractive guys, a lot of people are probably looking down on them a little bit. They are still getting romantic partners in some strange ways. I guess it's the romance sim attraction that is doing it, but nothing long term and nothing serious. And I guess they like that as well. They like taking things in stride, but not very, very sought after bachelors, these two. And then we have the Zimmerman family, which is Zoe and Jasmine, and they are living together for now, but they both have very steady partners. Well, at least Zoe's relationship is extremely steady. She has fallen in love with Guy rightly, and they seems like stars aligned for those two. They are really getting along so well. And of course, Jasmine has started to go out with Anne-Marie Davis. So there's a lot of things happening for them at the moment, and I think that they probably won't be living together for very long. But let's see what happens there. And then I think it's only these households left, actually. So we have the Loner household, and all the boys are still living at home, actually. Mitra is on his way out. He is going to move to university today. And then we have Surai and Vihan, who are teenagers at this point, and then little Harsha, who is a few days younger, so he's like mid-age child at this point. And Harsha has followed in his older brother's footsteps and is enjoying science, so both of these two share that. And then Surai is the music prodigy, so he plays a lot of piano, and then Vihan is really into sports, so he's sort of following in his father's footstep, being very active in that way. And they have adopted little Nougat, so he's living there with them. We have the Young family, that is Barbara and River, and their pets and their son. So they adopted Chopper, which is just the German Shepherd that River got because he's in the law enforcement career, and that seemed to fit. They had their first child, Drew, and then they also adopted little Fudge. So that's also a not a German Shepherd, but they look kind of similar. So yeah, that's something that they're gonna work on maybe with him as well to build up skills and eventually maybe become a police dog down the line. Let's see. And then we have the Cho family, and that is Abhijit and Daisy living together. And of course, this is also where Harabelle and Crocus are living. They haven't been very close with Abhijit at all. They have actually been very much on the fence with him, actually. They've only recently started to get closer with him, and that is after Hourvitz has put down a lot of work to try to talk to them in between taking care of the kids and everything that's been going on. So things are starting to get better, but they're definitely doing their own thing, those two. And then we have Azalea, who is going to continue on with the Cho name, and also little Vervain Cho. So those two kids were between Daisy and Abhijit. I actually didn't think that he would ever have kids who would continue on with his last name, but yeah, I guess things just went down that way, and I think that's actually a good thing. And then they have Cleopatra, who was just an adopted dog, I think, one that they got from Monique's computer. And then she actually sneakily had a little puppy with the neighbor's dog, the German Shepherd Chopper, and that is Adonis. So yeah, that is also one of the dogs in the neighborhood now. And I am pretty sure that that was actually the entire neighborhood as it looks right now. Didn't miss anyone. Don't think so. Yes, I did. For some reason, I completely blanked out on the Nigmos family, but of course, we also have to look into Ophelia and Laszlo's life, at least a little bit. So last time I showed you their house, they only had one floor, but now I have built onto the top of the house. I was considering maybe building a basement, but I decided to go with this solution instead. So going into the house, you can see that we have 2 children's rooms upstairs, and that is for their oldest children. We have Viola, and we have Benvolio. They're sitting here eating breakfast with their father right now. And then the couple also has had 2 more children. We have little Morgan, and they also have a baby called Claudio. And of course, Ophelia is on the way to take care of the little babies here. And not very much has happened in this house, to be honest. They're just another wholesome family looking after each other. But Ophelia and Laszlo are just so cute together. I always find them in very goofy situations. If they're not in the dining room stuffing their faces into lasagna, Laszlo is lying on the couch in his bathrobe listening to Ophelia as she's serenading him on the piano. So lots of fun with these 2 Sims actually in this house that actually turned out quite nice, if I may say so myself. So the only thing that's remaining now is to move over to La Fiesta Tech and take a look over there as well. And over here, things look pretty much the same as they have when we were here last. I haven't done anything to renovate any of this. I have just played with these households to get those families into the main neighborhood as well. And I have moved some of my Sims in here. So here we have Evelyn Riley and Gracie Hourvitz and John Shaw. And they have only just moved here, so they are just living in the student dorms until their 2nd term. That is when I am going to allow them to move to either the sorority or the fraternity, if they want to. And I think that all of these Sims do want to, so that's what's going to happen. And I also have the fraternity, where I have 2 Sims living at the moment. It's William Williamson. That is one of the Bin families that was here that I hadn't placed down yet. So it was a good family to put down, to have that prepared for when a lot of my Sims moved away from university, to actually make sure someone could take over the fraternity and sorority without any issues. And then also Jessie Walton is living here now as well, who has been together with Luna Curious as a teenager. And speaking of Luna, she's living here now in this sorority together with Clara von der Stein, Blossom Moonbeam, and then of course Luna. So I'm starting to get to know these Sims. They are pretty interesting actually, all 3 of them. And yeah, I think especially Clara von der Stein is not like a Sim that I normally play with, so it's been really fun to explore that. She randomized as gay, so I'm trying to find a good partner for her, which is not the easiest, but yeah, let's see what happens. And that is pretty much it for this neighborhood as well. So I think that we can end this hood tour with just taking a final look at this spreadsheet. And this is what it looks like now after another week has passed by. So as you can see, there's been quite an explosion of Sims here. A lot of Sims who have aged into adults and taken up careers. So there's quite a few new ones here, like artist, bartending, and so on, that wasn't here before. And this has started to change again. Things are pretty much the same as it has been. Things aren't really changing very quickly, but I think that the red piece of this cake has grown a lot smaller than it was before. And I think that the brown has started to take over. Light blue was very common before, but this has started to grow a bit bigger. And I think this is looking pretty much the same, actually. And knowledge is actually starting to make a comeback now, which is nice. I was actually expecting knowledge to be one of the most prominent aspirations in town because it's Strangetown. But actually it was the least popular one besides pleasure that no one had from the start. So that doesn't really count. But yeah, popularity and fortune are still the most prominent ones. And yeah, I would say that the hobbies are still also the same as it has been. It's pretty even. And I think that comes from just rolling dice, that things are kept pretty even between them just by chance like that. So, and if we take a look here at the number of Sims, I have 137 at the moment. And 71 of them are female and 66 are male. So it's a bit of a tilt towards the female side of things. Looks like I have, yeah, it's actually a lot of babies that are female and also a lot of children I see. But then again, we have a lot more teenagers who are male. But I think that is mostly where it's coming from. So I think there's been a baby boom in the female spectrum here. I think it was the exact opposite way around the last time we were here, that it was more for the male Sims, as you can see here. But now it's turning the other way. So let's see. It's probably going up and down in waves. So this is where I'm going to leave off for this time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any predictions for what is about to happen to some of these families. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Take care, and I will see you next time. Bye.